Are you ready for the suburban life, living away from some of the action in Los Angeles? Are you ready for some pretty relentless heat during the summer? These are just some of the questions you may want to ask yourself before making that move to the San Fernando Valley. I know it's some of the things my wife and I contemplated before we made the move. Now, we were just moving from West Los Angeles to the San Fernando Valley, which was only about 14 miles, but it did make a world of difference in our lifestyle, but it was something that we were ready for. And in this video, I'm going to go over some of the top 5 questions that I get and that you may want to ask yourself before making the move to the San Fernando Valley, because it is a big decision when making that move to Los Angeles in general and seeing which region is the right fit for you. Okay, the first question on the list, and this is probably the biggest one, is are you ready for the suburban lifestyle? The reason why you want to ask yourself that is because when you're living in the valley, you're away from most of the action. And there are pockets of suburban areas in the rest of the city of LA, but when you think of the San Fernando Valley, especially if you're local, you know that the San Fernando Valley is made up of mostly residential homes. Most people are homeowners. You're going to see a lot of ranch-style homes, mid-century modern homes throughout most of the neighborhoods. I mean, it's where the indoor mall was made popular throughout pop culture because there were so many indoor malls, probably to escape the heat. And then you have a lot of mini strip malls scattered throughout most of the valley, almost on every corner. And the mini malls, we're going to go to get some of your food, some of your shopping done. Then you have your power centers that have a lot of the big box stores like your grocery stores or a Best Buy or a Michael's Craft Store, Home Depot, Lowe's, Walgreens, CVS, those types of stores. That's where your main source of shopping is. And it's pretty much like that in every neighborhood within the valley. And a lot of it could look the same no matter which neighborhood you're living in. Most everything in the valley is pretty cookie cutter. There are certain sections like along Ventura Boulevard, Sherman Oaks, Studio City, Woodland Hills, where it's a little bit more updated, contemporary, kind of like more of the pedestrian friendly lifestyle. But for the most part, when you live in the valley, it's this cookie cutter homes, cookie cutter shopping centers, unless you live in the hills where the homes could be spectacular, views from everywhere. But it's something you need to be prepared for when living in the valley. A lot of things just kind of look the same, and you're just away from a lot of the action. There's no real big sports teams or sports venues within the San Fernando Valley. There's no real concert venues within the valley. No big clubs or nightlife spots that you want to go to in the valley. It's really a place that you want to live if you want to kind of be away from it all and still have the access throughout the rest of the city to get to if you want to go and seek that type of entertainment. So when you're living in the San Fernando Valley, you're not really living the city life like you would in the downtown areas or eastern portions of Los Angeles, and you're not living that beach lifestyle that you would in parts of West LA and of course along the coastline. Now, that's something that my wife and I actually wanted for ourselves and for our family as we grew up. My wife's originally from the Valley, and then she moved to West LA when we started going out. I grew up in West Los Angeles, and I was just very used to that. I had all the entertainment right at my fingertips. I was about 4 miles from the beach, and I was a beach guy. But as we started wanting to raise our family, we wanted something a little bit quieter, less congested, and frankly, just something a little bit more relaxed and chill. And we wanted more of that park lifestyle, the hiking lifestyle. We were kind of done with the clubs, done with the concerts. And if we wanted that, we can just head over into West LA over the hill or into the downtown area where they have some venues there. But for us, we just wanted something where we knew we can let our kids run out and play in the neighborhood. We wanted to move to a section of Los Angeles where people value the backyard barbecue or hanging out at the pool in the backyard, more so than just going to the beach or going to a concert. We wanted the active lifestyle where we just get to go to hang out in the park or have our choice of hiking trails in the valley, neighborhoods where you can still find block parties and just, again, people hanging out outside, taking walks, leisurely strolls in the neighborhood, a lot of family-oriented activities in the valley, and that was just something we wanted rather than more being in the action. As a reminder, I'm Dave Fine with the Real Estate Dads right here in Los Angeles, and my team and I love helping people move to and relocate to the Los Angeles area, including the San Fernando Valley. So if that is something you're considering, make sure you reach out to us, phone, text, or email. We love getting communication from people wanting to move out here. Also, we make tons of videos about what it's like to live, work, and play in Los Angeles. So make sure you subscribe, tap the bell to get notified, hit the like button if you like what you see, and comment below, ask any questions. I'm always here to answer. Okay, the second question you need to ask yourself is, are you ready for the heat? Now, this is a big one. This is something actually I considered with my wife before moving to the San Fernando Valley. And as I mentioned, it's only a 14-mile difference from where we were living and where I grew up in West Los Angeles. But being a 14-mile difference, it's about a 10 to 20 degree difference in heat, especially during the summer. And it's no joke. I mean, when you're living in the west side of Los Angeles, you get the cool ocean breeze. But when you're living in the San Fernando Valley, it's a bowl. You're surrounded by mountains and hillside, and there's really no breeze. There's no wind to speak of unless you're dealing with the Santa Ana winds. But outside of that, it's just, the heat just gets trapped and it sits there and it is hot. And you're in a valley. And so, you have to be prepared for summers being, mid 80s all the way to triple digits. Now the mid 80s not so bad. When you get to 90, 95, 100, 110, it can be brutally hot, and it really kind of puts a squash on your plans. You don't necessarily want to be outside so much. You want to find shade if you are. Hopefully you have a pool if you're living in the valley. If not, you make friends with a neighbor that has a pool so you can take advantage of that. But it could be stifling, and just going from your car with your groceries to your doorstep could be annoying. Sometimes it could be hard to sleep. You got your AC pumping, which adds to your utility bill, but it's pumping all day, but it's still warm and it doesn't feel the most comfortable when you're trying to sleep. And if you have a family, if you got kids, with the great weather that we have in general in Los Angeles, where it's sunny all the time, you want to have your kids go outside, which you can do. But when it is that stifling hot, and if you've got really little ones, you don't necessarily want them running around getting all heat exhausted and dehydrated. So actually what we would do is we would find an indoor mall. Of course, I said that they're popular, and they still are in the San Fernando Valley. And it was something for us to escape and get outside, and we would just let our kids run around and walk around the mall. Gave us something to do, not being cooped up in the home. But seriously, that is something people do. And it's funny too, because you also see people with their running gear, or not their running gear, but their walking gear and their walking shoes. And you'll see people just doing laps in the mall when it is triple digits outside, and they still want to get their exercise in. Maybe they don't want to be in a gym on a treadmill. They actually want to physically walk around somewhere. So the mall becomes like this destination spot when it's really hot. So I am thankful it's out there. Because it's so hot and because we get that sun, you're definitely going to want to sunscreen up. You want to make sure you're all stocked up on your sunscreens for you, your family, and your kids, because it doesn't take long to burn here when you're living in the San Fernando Valley, and it'll just sneak up on you real quick. Even on the non-sunny days, which are rare, it's deceiving because you're still going to get burned. So make sure you've got that sunscreen, whether you're going to the park, the pool, going for a hike, or just going for a leisurely stroll in the neighborhood. So just be prepared for the heat, because it can be quite brutal. Now, I will say there are some benefits to that, because if you're someone like myself and my family, we enjoy being outside, so we just wait for it to be in the evening or earlier in the morning. And it's something to be said when you're out in the evening and you have your dinners outside, and it's still 70 degrees, even 80 degrees sometimes, and it's relaxing. If you want to go walk in the neighborhood, you're just still in shorts and a t-shirt, and you just, or loungewear or whatever, and you can just take a walk in the neighborhood or go to the park. And in the morning, I like to work out in the morning and do my running and do my hiking in the morning. You don't have to bundle up. It's not cold. It's already probably 70 degrees by 7 a.m. and you're doing your thing, going outside, and that's what I really enjoy doing. So there are some benefits to having the warmer temperature when living in the San Fernando Valley. All right, the third question you need to ask yourself is, are you ready for some poor air quality? Now, when you think Los Angeles, most people think beach, coastline, ocean breeze, and that is all true when you're thinking greater Los Angeles, especially the west side, where the ocean breeze pushes all the smog, because we do have a ton of smog in Los Angeles, pushes all the smog east and northeast. And so if you're living in the eastern portions of LA, you get the smog there. But if you're living in the valley, it's even worse, because as I mentioned, you're in a bowl. You're surrounded by the hills, you're surrounded by the mountainside, and there's nowhere for this air to go. There's no real breeze to speak of. So you get the city smog that just sits there. And unfortunately, when you're driving to the valley from the west side, you're going over the Sepulveda Pass on the 405 freeway. You're coming from these beautiful blue skies by the ocean, and you're traveling up the hill, and then you make it to the peak, and you're coming down into the valley, and you just see this layer of kind of yellow haze. It's not the most appealing, and frankly, it can be a health issue for some people. When you're not on the hills, you don't necessarily see it so much, but you can kind of feel it sometimes. So if you're sensitive with allergies, or if you have asthma, San Fernando Valley could affect that more. My wife has asthma, and I've got a bunch of friends that have allergies, and sometimes when you're just sitting there with that smog and there's no real air movement, that could affect your lifestyle a bit. So again, being in LA with the sun being out 320 days a year, whatever it is, you want to be outside. But when you have those really bad smog days, and sometimes we get these smog alerts or these air quality alerts, you're going to want to stay inside. Now, we also get quite a bit of fires in the Los Angeles region area, not so much in the city itself, although we do get that from, unfortunately, some of the homeless population with their encampments. They create these fires and then they just get out of control in the parks. And so you do have local fires, but more so in the hills and mountains around you, and being again in the valleys surrounded by that, more so than other parts of the city, you get affected more by the fires. And again, because we don't have the breeze, that ash and that soot and that fire, the smog and the smoke, just kind of sit there. So that's another thing you need to think about. So if you're someone who's sensitive to that, you may want to consider somewhere else outside of the San Fernando Valley. All right, the fourth question you need to ask yourself when living in the San Fernando Valley is, are you ready and prepared to be secluded from the rest of the city? Now, when looking at a map, you'll see that the San Fernando Valley is cut off from the rest of the city by the Santa Monica Mountains and the Hollywood Hills. Now, that may not seem like a big deal because it's not like these massive, expansive mountain ranges or these long rolling hills. But when you include our traffic problem, it makes it a bit of a nightmare to get to the other side of Los Angeles. And before we made the move, when we were living in West Los Angeles, sometimes it would take my wife about an hour to get to work just going to the San Fernando Valley. And so we knew what we were getting into. If we moved to the valley, we would be cut off a little bit more from our west side life. And that's kind of exactly what happened. We coached baseball and basketball. We made our home at the Mar Vista Rec Center in West Los Angeles in the Mar Vista neighborhood area. And we coached there for years, and we thought we would continue doing that. And we tried when we moved to Encino, a neighborhood in the valley. And after about a year, we just realized it didn't make sense. It was taking us an hour to get there, an hour to get back, and that was just for having fun volunteer coaching. And then we just felt a little less connected to the community there because they were getting together on other days where we couldn't necessarily make it because of traffic. We weren't just about 5-10 minutes away anymore. And then frankly and honestly, we didn't see our friends as much. And it's kind of sad to say when you only live about 14-mile difference, but when you add that traffic in the commute, where it could be an hour or more just going one direction, you don't necessarily see your friends and family on that side of town as much as you would like to. And they don't come this way to the valley for the same exact reason. So you may feel a little secluded and isolated from the rest of the city. And as I mentioned, we don't have a lot of the entertainment venues. So if you are someone that seeks out entertainment, you're going to be secluded from that. So because really to get to the West LA area, you've got two main options, and that's the 405 freeway and the Sepulveda Boulevard, which pretty much run right next to each other through Sepulveda Pass. That's really your only option to get to West LA. And if you're trying to get over to the beach or in the Malibu area or Santa Monica area, you've got Topanga Canyon Boulevard. But again, you're going through the hills, and that's about an hour. And if you want to go into Hollywood or Beverly Hills or that area, then your real main options are Laurel Canyon Boulevard and Coldwater Canyon, and those are going to be heavily trafficked and take you a long time as well. And then if you want going into downtown 101 freeway, that's going to add to your commute. So you're geographically separated, but again, if you look at it on a map and you map out the miles, it's not a big deal mileage wise. But when you factor in the time it takes to get places, it just makes it to a point where you're just not going to see family, friends, maybe. And if you work outside of the valley, let's say you live in the valley and a lot of jobs are not necessarily in the valley, you're going to be going to West LA, you're going to be going to parts of East LA or downtown, Hollywood, Beverly Hills. You may not see your coworkers. Like if you're someone that makes a lot of friends with your colleagues and coworkers, you'll see them on work days, but you may not hang with them in the weekends, or you may not do evening events with them or evening outings because you know it's going to take you forever to get home. And if you're someone that does a lot of traveling business-wise or just for your pleasure, or if you do international traveling, it's quite a commute to go over to LAX, the Los Angeles International Airport. Now, they do have flyaway carpool vans that will take you, but either way, you're still going to sit in traffic, whether you're driving or someone else is driving. So it is a bit of a commute to get there if you're someone that flies a lot. Thankfully, we do have the Burbank Airport, but it's limited on where you can go. It's Southwest, Alaskan Airlines. It's basically planes that run along the West Coast and parts Midwest as well. But again, if you're someone that's not looking for living right in the middle of action, you don't want to be in the middle of it all, you don't want to be in super congested areas, you want a little bit more of a quieter lifestyle with the option to go somewhere, then the San Fernando Valley is the right place for you. And we discovered, it took me a little bit of an adjustment when I made the move, but I discovered I actually enjoyed being away from it all and making the choice to be in it if I wanted to when living in Los Angeles in general. All right, fifth on our list, the fifth question you need to ask yourself is, are you prepared to sit in traffic? Now, You've probably heard this and seen this in my other videos where I talk about traffic in general in Los Angeles, and the San Fernando Valley is a little bit better than the congested areas of West Los Angeles. Actually, I'd say it's significantly better than West Los Angeles, East Los Angeles, downtown Los Angeles, and all of those areas. Just because, again, because you have so many shopping and entertainment districts, and you've got the beach and the coastline, and you've got more multifamily, you've got lots of big mega complexes when it comes to condos and townhomes, mid-rise and high-rise living. That just adds to a lot more density and a lot more people, a lot more cars in the area. So it's a lot worse when living in other portions of LA. But that's not to say that the San Fernando Valley doesn't have its traffic. And I can say from when I moved there in 2016, it progressively got worse because there was more and more people wanting to escape the other portions of Los Angeles and have more of the quieter lifestyle. So they were moving to the Valley. There's a little bit more new construction when it comes to the Valley. So people were coming this way, adding a little bit more traffic and a little bit more congestion. Now, the Valley itself is easy to get around. It's a grid. I mean, it's all flat for the most part, unless you're living in the hills along the Santa Monica Mountains, like Woodland Hills, Tarzana, Encino, Sherman Oaks, Studio City, or if you're living in the northern parts of the Valley, Porter Ranch, Granada Hills, then it's not as flat. You don't have that grid lifestyle. But outside of that, you have this grid where it's easy. You got your northwest streets, you got your north-south streets, your east-west streets, easy to plan out and map out where you're going. But with all that said, you don't have a lot of options as far as getting around. A lot of your major streets, Ventura Boulevard, Burbank Boulevard, Balboa Boulevard, Topanga Canyon Boulevard, Reseda, White Oak, all these streets are slammed with cars, especially during your morning and evening rush hours. And the freeways aren't much of an option. You have the 101 freeway that runs east and west throughout the southern portion of the Valley. That's going to be slammed constantly. You have the 405 freeway that kind of runs in the middle of the San Fernando Valley, which is a nightmare, especially at the interchange of the 101 and the 405. The 405 runs north-south. Up on the north side of the Valley, you've got the 118. It's a little less congested. That also runs east and west, not as bad. But if you're living in the northern parts of the Valley, that just makes it even longer. Even though the 118 is less congested, less traffic, you're living that far north in the Valley, you are going to have to hit that 405 freeway really to get down to anywhere in the south, or hit the 101 to go east-west. But traffic is pretty bad, and it can be annoying, and I'm used to it from living in West Los Angeles, so it was even worse for me when I got to the Valley. It's a little bit more of a breeze, but I'm someone that got used to it, so it's something I'd listen to music to, listen to podcasts, catch up with friends and family, I'd do my work, I'd even meditate while driving. But it's aggravating. I'm not saying I enjoy it. You just try to make the best of it as you can. But a lot of people, there's a lot of angry drivers out here honking their horns constantly, trying to lane change constantly to get the edge on the traffic. People aren't just all that happy. You need a minute. You need a moment to breathe when you get to your destination, because you just were stuck in traffic, not moving much, realizing how much of the day it took you to get to your destination. And we don't have a large mass public transportation in Los Angeles in general, and then especially in the Valley. You've got the Orange Line. It's a bus line that runs east-west, basically from Woodland Hills area all the way into the Valley Village area. And that kind of cuts across the middle of the Valley. It's used a lot. Actually, you can then connect and get it all the way to downtown if you want. My sister-in-law actually went to art school in downtown Los Angeles, and she lived in the Valley, and she took the bus line because she didn't like driving in the traffic, and the bus line was a little bit quicker. Just be prepared to sit in traffic. Again, not as bad as other portions of Los Angeles, but it's still going to be pretty bad, probably compared to where you're used to living now. So these are some of the top questions that you may want to ask yourself before moving to the San Fernando Valley. I know these are some of the questions that my clients have asked themselves, and they've even asked us about our opinion. And so I made a video about it to share my opinion and what it's like to live in the San Fernando Valley. Some questions you need to ask yourself before making the move here. Again, we love helping people relocate and move to the San Fernando Valley and all of Los Angeles area. So hit us up with a text, phone call, or email. We'll be sure to help you. Also, if you like what you see and you want more of these videos, make sure you subscribe, tap the bell to get notified, hit the like button, and also make comments, ask questions. I will always be available. See you on the next one.